What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So in this video, I want to talk about resistance, legitimate resistance, and that being labeled as terrorism. Okay. Then we're going to talk about this in this video. So thank you very much for joining me here. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you'd like to check out more from the channel, please do so. Consider subscribing, like, share, comment, all the good stuff to get more videos in front of more people. If you'd like to check out more from my other channels, you have JM Drummer, JMDPLAY, Puzzling. If you like what you see there, consider subscribing to those as well. That would be amazing. All that's free for you and helps out the channels tremendously, okay? If you want to do more, there's Patreon link up there. $2 a month. Support any of the channels that you would like to. Help to grow those channels, help grow Patreon, help grow JMD Nation, and contribute to that growth how you would like. There's a merch link as well up there. I have merch for every single channel. If you like it, get it. It'd be amazing. And if you're a Patreon member, you get a discount on that merch, so even more reason to be a Patreon member. But either way, any way you decide to support is very much appreciated, and I thank you very much. And if you return, you're freaking amazing. Welcome back and keep coming back. Resistance. For all of you out there who want to argue that certain states, certain countries, certain groups of people have the right to exist. All right. Think about as an American, okay? As an American, we have our First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, right? The right to free speech, the right to bear arms, and a lot of Americans consider those rights as inalienable rights that we are inherent to have, and we have every right to have, and nobody should ever skirt on those rights, right? And the right to speech, to be able to say whatever we want to without real worry of repercussion, especially being able to discern or being able to cast doubt or question things or whatever. Even with our government, all right. That is it feels important to Americans. Something that we've had since day one. Now, arguably, more certain people more than others, and that's been addressed. Little by little, some of it's been addressed over the years. Now, currently in our political divisions and argument right now, some of that is being brought into question, and some of those rights are being taken away from certain people, and there's a stern pushback on that currently happening in the United States. But the one other big one is bear arms. The right to own a weapon, the right to be able to protect and defend yourself if necessary, whether it's from an internal threat, neighbor or whatever the case, or even from a government threat, or even potentially from an alien threat, or somebody outside the country, whatever the case, we feel like we have the right to that. Now, the one thing that the United States has never had, okay, is a outside group, outside state, outside anything, literally come into our territory, okay, come into the inner linings of the United States and try to take over that area militarily, occupy or take over. We've pushed people off our lands. We've never had that happen. Okay, beaten, brutally abuse, shoot, kill, pillage. We've never had that happen. right? Um, you've never had Mexico come in here and take over militarily, say, the southern part of Texas and try to take over Texas, right? We've never really had that. At least not since if we're, uh, and not, at least not since the main, let's just say, the main crux of the borders that we currently have, right? Let's just say. I mean, I guess you could argue there was some territorial battles in the early development of the United States between, of course, the Revolutionary, then others as well. Uh, you know, how we even, obtained half of Mexico in the first place, but nevertheless. But as far as just, the main formation, what we currently have is the United States, we've never had that happen. But I want you to think for a second. I want you to think for a second if that were to happen. If another country was to decide to try to invade and take over, what if another country was trying to control our systems? Like control our water, control our electricity, control trade, prevent trade from coming into this country, right? Prevent food from getting into this country that, we couldn't make here. What if there was, somebody, whether whoever it be, China, Russia, North Korea, those are the easy ones, right? Or even like, say, the UK, or hell, fuck it, Mexico, Canada. If anybody was to decide that they wanted to take over our area, they wanted to take over our country, they wanted to manage and suppress resources for us, how would you react? How would you think? What actions would you take and be willing to take to maintain your freedom or to gain your freedom back, to push that out and reclaim your land? Think about that for a second. And would you consider that moral and just to do so? Do you feel like you would have the right to do so, to resist that occupation or that attempt to remove you, disassociate you from where you live and who you are? Think about that for a second. Now, consider that you build a resistance and you fight back. And then suddenly the person who is occupying you, the country that's decided to take you over, starts to call you a terrorist. Because how dare you resist? How dare you resist that they are they are the finite better country, better people, and you are nobody. And they deserve the right to take your land over because they were promised that thousands of years ago by a higher being. Or whatever. And they considered you a terrorist because you were resisting that. And they argued that you should stop your resistance. You should hand over your weapons and leave yourself completely vulnerable to whatever decisions they decide for you. How would you feel about that? Would you just be willing to do so? Would you think, oh, okay, yeah, you're right, I should do that. I'm sorry, my bad. You are the better person. You are the better group of people. I am nobody. I don't deserve to resist. I don't deserve freedoms. I don't deserve access to resources. I don't deserve the right to live. Think about that for a second. Whatever you might be feeling about that is exactly how Palestinians feel, not only right now, but have felt for decades now. Decades upon decades upon decades upon decades. Ever since the creation of the state of Israel. Because a group of people argued that they had the right to exist on a specific piece of land that they were quote unquote promised thousands of years ago, no matter who has lived on that land or been a part of that land since then. And that it didn't matter your family history, it didn't matter generations after generations of what you produced there, of you living there and being there generations after generations after generations for who knows how long and how many generations back. None of that matters because they have the right to kick you off and remove you from that because they were told in scriptures and the things that were written thousands of years ago that that was supposed to be their promised land. And you have no right to it. And if you're not going to get off of it, then we're going to make life a living hell for you. We're going to control all your resources. We're going to control your electricity, your water, any trade that comes in and out. You have no free range and free will whatsoever. And we're going to corral you into a small area. And that's where you're going to have to live and exist. And every so often, if any of you, act a little certain way, if you look at us wrong, some of our forces, well, we might just decide to take you out. Just to make you, help you realize, help you remember who actually controls you. That's how it's been in Gaza for decades. Decades. We're not talking about a couple years. Most of the people living in Gaza, they have been living in that condition their entire lives. Even the oldest in Gaza have been living their entire lives that way. Under occupational rule of another country and another group of people. that dictates and defines how they can live, what they're allowed to have, where they're allowed to go. And in the West Bank, they're constantly kicked off their land, settlers taking over. And anytime you try to argue back, you get beaten or imprisoned. The judicial systems are completely against you and allow for the actions to happen. Nobody is standing up for your rights. Nobody is pushing back and keeping you, helping you get back the land that you lived on, what you called home. And the government that's occupying and controlling you is literally like creating systems to not only enact these actions, but like completely solidify, and then propaganda around trying to make the entire world be okay with that, because it's in the best interest of them to do so. It's in the best interest of their security and safety, because you're just so violent. Because when you get mad, you're throwing stones at them and rocks, because it's the only weapons you have. Or because some of you got so mad and frustrated and sick of the occupation that you decided to create a group of people. You somehow were able to get the somehow able to get the attention and apathy, empathy of one nation, the only nation that has ever shown any resistance to this occupier, to help smuggle in and service you some weapons, and you create a resistance because you've had so much, you've had enough of the conditions, and you're sick and tired of the conditions, and you create a resistance to fight back and push back to try to take your land back. But because you created resistance and you're fighting back on this occupier that has propagated to the rest of the world that they must do what they're doing, and then turn around and call you a terrorist and convince the rest of the world that you're terrorists as well, because your connections to a country that they consider their ultimate enemy, the only country that's willing to actually push back on them, so they call them terrorists, and then you're guilty of being terrorist by association, just because they've convinced the rest of the world, just because you're resisting. You're called a terrorist. And the terrorist label is easy to place on you because you're Arab. And why is that easy? Because we do have the extreme Arab Islamic forces that, like ISIS, like Al Qaeda, that quite literally wanted, their whole ideology is to completely bring down the Western hemisphere, the Western ideology, the Western practices, democracy, everything. They want to bring it down. That's the far extreme. And while it's not the way I would go about it, but it's not like they don't have some sort of a point, the reason why they even want to do that. Because they see the Western hemisphere, the Western societies, all they want is to take over everything, control resources, control governments, pillage and take, colonialism, imperialism. And they're sick and tired of it. So just like some of the most aggressive ones here in the United States that would do anything to fight for their country and for their democracy and their capitalism and their nationalism, their American flag, they do the same. And so we were able to label them as terrorists because they're connected to actually literally doing an attack on our soil. And because we were easily able to label them a terrorist, that makes it easier for Israel to label Hamas, Hezbollah, Yemen, other militia groups within Iraq, Syria, and other locations. Easily label them as terrorists. The Zionists' occupation, the Zionist ideology and point of mind in Israel, the ones that are controlling Israel, the ones that helped to create Israel and helped to develop the ideas and the actions that Israel takes and has taken since its inception. If you're defending that, they have every incentive to do so, to fight for it. Their whole argument, their whole entire argument. They think they're so pure, and they are like a direct, the promised people from something bigger and larger than the world. And so therefore they have the right to do whatever they want, take whatever they want, act however they want. So it's easy to understand why they do what they do, as wrong as it may be. But if you were an American, okay, if you were an American, if you're a Christian even, that is defending and arguing that, oh no, Palestinians, they don't have the right. You got to protect Israel. They're not occupying them. They're protecting their sovereignty. And all they want to do is destroy them. They're not resistance groups, they're terrorists. I think you need to look back and re-educate yourself on what has happened in this region over the last 70-something years. Palestinians were a group of people that were kicked off their land that they had been living on for generations after generations after generations. They were corralled together like animals, and they've been controlled and suppressed and oppressed ever since by the state of Israel. And if you think that under those conditions that those people don't have the right to resist, then maybe you don't either, if it were to happen to you. So when a big, huge corporation, these data center people, corporations and stuff, come knock on your door and saying, hey, we need your land. You need to get off. Don't resist. Don't push back. Just let them have it. Right? Just let them have it. You don't have the right. Don't grab your gun. Don't resist. Don't argue. Because Palestinians don't have the right to resist, neither do you. Of course you have the right to resist. Of course you have a right to protect and defend what you think is yours, or what you have, what you have purchased, what you have owned, what you have, by law, or even by heritage or whatever. Of course you have the right to defend it. And so do they. And that's what they've been doing. The crazy thing about it is that the right to resistance and legitimate resistance from an occupied force, that right was designated and created law by the Geneva Convention in Geneva, Switzerland, by Westerner people. The most Western of Western people designated that as a right. And then now the West is saying that, well, not when it comes to Palestinians. They don't have the right because Israel So was it that only Westerners have the right? Westerners, people with Western governments, the democracies, they're the only ones that have the right to not be occupied? Is that what that meant? because that's not the way it was. That's not the way it was put forward. It was put forward that everybody had the right. Period. So if that's the case, then so does Palestine and the Palestinians. They have the right to resist. That does not make them terrorists. It doesn't make Hamas terrorists. It doesn't make Hezbollah terrorists. It doesn't make the Houthis terrorists. All they are doing is protecting their land. Protecting their land when the lack of a government or the government that's supposed to be protecting them isn't able to. Isn't that the same right you feel like you would deserve as an American? That if you had no government or your government could not protect you, that you had the right to resist and protect yourself? The word terrorist just gets thrown around so easily now. To the point that it doesn't even really mean anything anymore. But just like it's argued that Palestinians don't have the right to exist, they don't have the right to self-determination, they don't have the right to a state of their own and sovereignty of their own. Now Americans are being told that they don't have the right to defend that right. They don't have the right to say free Palestine without persecution, without the possibility of losing your job and being, well, deplatformed, funded. I mean, it is quite literally now, like in 39 out of the 50 states, I think, illegal to boycott Israel. Like a company cannot boycott Israel, or an organization cannot boycott Israel in like 39 of the 39 of the 50 states of America. You can boycott America if you want, but you can't boycott Israel. So just like their freedoms have been taken away, your freedoms are being taken away too. And it's time for you to wake up and see that. And maybe then you'll realize what it's like, even the fraction of a bit of what it's like to be a Palestinian and your rights being taken away. Maybe then even you will be saying, free Palestine. Thank you for joining me here. Let me know what you think. Until next time, peace. ClearTalk, I'm out.